I've been a little heavy on my football talk lately, so I'm gonna shift gears to basketball. There's 30 teams in the NBA, so if you're listening, and I don't care if you're listening to this a month from now or a year from now, but if possible, just send me a message, a voice message, or a direct message. Let me know who your favorite team is. My favorite team is the Lakers. I'm not a bandwagon fan, I promise. I'm only 26 years old. I've been rocking with the Lakers since I was about 9 years old. So my fandom runs deep with the team. I've seen them win 2 or 3 championships in my short time. But just let me know who your team is. So I remember it vividly. I first started watching the Lakers back in about the 03-04 season. And I just remember they were playing the Pistons. And I just really liked what they were doing. Kobe was starting to come into his own. And Shaq was a monster. So I just really liked what they had going on. And so I've been a fan ever since. So with that being said, I'm really hoping we can get this back-to-back championship and, help LeBron continue to build his legacy, get his 5th ring. Right now, they're the favorites this year to win the NBA championship. There's a lot of good teams in the NBA right now. I feel like there's just so many teams that have a wealth of talent. Like, back in the old days, it feels like, most teams didn't really have 2 bona fide stars. But now it's just so common that, you almost need 3 bona fide stars just to compete. Right now, I feel like the Brooklyn Nets have the best shot to knock off the Lakers. Hopefully the Lakers still win, but right now I feel like the Nets have the best shot. And that sounds so crazy to me because the Nets have been abysmal for years and years. So just saying they have a shot to win the championship kind of sounds funny to me. But KD, Kevin Durant, and Kyrie Irving are no joke. KD looks to be healthy, coming off that Achilles injury. So I think they're definitely going to be able to make some noise, provided that those 2 guys stay healthy. The loss of Spencer Dinwiddie the other day with his injury is very damaging to their chances, but they still have a good team, and they still have a bunch of other playmakers. So I feel like they'll still do well in the East. So I'm thinking that it'll be the Nets and maybe the Bucks. I'm not sold on the Bucks after their last 2 playoff performances, but right now, if I had to choose, I would say probably the Nets and the Bucks to meet in the finals. But you can never count out Miami, and you definitely can't count out the 76ers with Embiid, Simmons, and Doc Rivers now coaching them with the shooting that they have. They brought in Seth Curry and a bunch of other shooters. So they're going to be going crazy too this year. In the West, I'm not a fan of the Clippers. One, because they're, the Lakers' hometown rival, and 2, I'm just not a huge fan of Kawhi. He's very consistent. He's a good player. He plays good defense. He can score the ball when He can score the ball pretty well, but I'm just not a fan. He doesn't have the personality that really grabs me, and he also doesn't. He sort of comes off as a quiet guy, but also somewhat of a selfish guy. He didn't, to my knowledge, I didn't, really hear him taking the burden upon himself, when the team lost unexpectedly to the Denver Nuggets, and just different things like that. So he's not a very interesting player from a few different perspectives to me. So I mean, yeah, I'm not very high on the Clippers, but in the Western Conference, the West is loaded as per usual. The West is loaded once again. The Warriors are gonna be better. I'm not saying they'll compete, but they may be a playoff team, and they'll definitely be better than they were last year. The Portland Trail Blazers, they're always gonna, they've been pretty good. Dame Dollar is no joke. You cannot sleep on Dame Dollar. The Denver Nuggets, they're loaded with Jokic, Jamal Murray, and Michael Porter Jr. Michael Porter Jr. is a scoring machine. He's a young player. He's coming off of an injury that he had last year, and previously in college. But once he really starts to get going, I think he's gonna be trouble. Michael Porter Jr. is trouble. He's a long wing. He needs to get better with his defense, but he can score the basketball. So don't sleep on his offensive game, because he's a long wing, and he'll shoot your lights out, and he can get a bucket. I like listening to some of Kendrick Perkins' takes, and like Kendrick always says, he's a walking bucket. So don't sleep on him. And you also got Harden and John Wall in the West. I don't think they'll contend for a title, but they'll probably make the playoffs, assuming they keep Harden. And, you can't look over them, because Harden just dropped 44, and he's a walking bucket. I don't think anyone in the league I'm not going to go that far, but Harden's led the league in scoring, a few of the last several years, and he's a walking bucket as well. So definitely can't count him out. So there's a lot of teams just competing. The young teams, the Pelicans are competing in the West. The Thunder are trying to compete in the West. The Suns, Chris Paul and Devin Booker. I mean, there's not too many backcourts better than those guys. Chris Paul, a wily vet, grizzled playoff experience. I don't think anyone can run the offense better than Chris Paul right now. Well, really the last couple years. Chris Paul is the point guard, as they say. But so and plus the Suns have DeAndre Ayton. They got some talent down there. They may make a little bit of noise in the playoffs. I wouldn't be surprised if they made a little bit of noise. So there's just a bunch of teams on the come up right now. There's so many teams that have, 2 or 3 stars. Like, teams are packed with stars now, whereas back in the day that kind of wasn't the case. They just mostly had like one big star, and then just guys that knew how to play their role. But yeah, teams have a bunch of stars these days, and plus it's a more offensive game. So players are the game's faster now. It's a much faster pace. Threes have increased exponentially. So that's boosting scoring and also the pace of the game. So the league is I like the direction it's headed in at the moment, but there's just a lot of good players and a lot of good teams. So definitely if you can message me or just comment on the podcast, just let me know who your favorite team is, who you're rocking with. I'm hoping the Lakers get this back to back, and I'm just gonna throw this out there. This may be an unpopular opinion with a lot of people who, may have grown up in the 80s or 90s, but I hope LeBron catches Jordan. I hope he gets at least 6 rings. I mean, I'm just saying, my eyes and my experience watching the sport tells me that LeBron is definitely. So the stats are gonna give it to LeBron by the time he's done playing, but I can't say that I've seen anyone with a better overall game than LeBron James. Personally, I think Kobe is a better scorer than LeBron as far as being a pure scorer and having that killer instinct. I think LeBron is sort of developed the killer instinct, but I don't think he has that same mindset as maybe Kobe and Michael Jordan. I think his is a little different in that, LeBron uplifts his teammates a little bit more than Kobe and Jordan, but LeBron has the best overall game of those guys, but Kobe and Michael were just better pure scorers than LeBron. So I'm just gonna throw that out there, but I hope LeBron, keeps stacking his championships, and by the time his career is over, there will be no GOAT debate. I mean, there'll still be a debate, but it's gonna be, if he gets 6 rings, it's gonna be hard for people to dispute it. Plus, a lot of people don't realize LeBron has played in, I believe, 9 of the last 10 championships. That's literally unheard of. Jordan went 6 for 6, but LeBron still has to get points for going to 10 finals plus because he's not done. And I think it's crazy that people don't give him credit for that. It's hard to get to a finals. The first Cleveland Cavs team that he took to the finals in 2007, I think it is, that team had no business being in the finals because they weren't that good. Without LeBron, that team probably wouldn't have even made the playoffs. So for him to drag those guys to the finals on his back, even though they lost, I think they got swept by the Spurs, I want to say. But, I mean, even just getting there was a major accomplishment. So, that can't be diminished. Him getting to all those finals and, closing the deal 4 times thus far. But, hopefully he'll keep stacking those championships, and my Lakers will keep adding banners and more banners. But yeah, that's my take for Big Time Sports Talk. Let's go.